Recently, I had 30 minutes with Pope Francis.
And he used all 30 of those to advocate for LGBT people.
Today I'm sitting down with Father James Martin, Jesuit priest, author, editor-at-large of American Media, and a compelling advocate for LGBTQ people in the Catholic Church. The significant turning point in Father Martin's ministry was the Pulse nightclub shooting, where 49 people were killed, most of whom were LGBTQ and Latinx. And now Father Martin is advocating for the decriminalization of being LGBTQ around the world. What's really cool is that Father James Martin got a rare 30-minute audience with Pope Francis and used that entire meeting to talk about the LGBTQ community within the Catholic Church. As a queer Catholic who's been rejected by some of my family, this conversation is deeply personal to me. Not just in terms of finding my own place in the Catholic Church, but more broadly, in terms of how we move the Catholic Church towards justice and inclusion.
In 2016, 49 people, most of them, like me, LGBTQ and Latinx, were killed in a horrible act of violence at Pulse nightclub in Orlando. Can you tell us more about how that's brought you into this work that you're doing now?
Like, I think every thinking person and feeling person in the United States, I felt terrible. I felt even worse when I found out it was LGBT people who were targeted.
This is an ABC News special report.
Shooting, the worst mass shooting in American history that unfolded overnight in Orlando, Florida.
And what really disturbed me in terms of the church's response was the lack of response. After almost every tragedy, and the U.S. Bishops' Conference will right away come out with a statement of solidarity. But in the case of Pulse, only a handful of bishops said anything. And I thought, even in death, these people are invisible to the church. And so I recorded a video on Facebook that a lot of people saw. People everywhere should stand not only with the people of Orlando, but also with their LGBT brothers and sisters. This is the moment for all Christians to do so, and all Catholics. And that led to a book called Building a Bridge, which I didn't think would be a big deal, frankly. It doesn't challenge any Catholic teaching. The reaction was astonishing, both positive, people hugging me and crying and standing ovations in churches, and negative, a lot of personal vilification online. It seemed to indicate that this conversation needs to happen.
Our next guest is the author of the wildly controversial book. It focuses on uniting the LGBT Catholic community and the church.
It has also sparked much conversation and debate.
Please welcome Father James Martin. Hi, Father.
Why is it so important for Catholic leaders to welcome lesbian, gay...
So on Spirit Day here, we are united in opposing bullying in schools and bullying of LGBTQ youth, and we ask you to speak out and really tell them that you love them, that God loves them, and that they're safe.
The meeting made headlines around the world. Pope Francis sat down with Father James Martin, a Jesuit.
You find out that the Pope wants to have a sit-down with you. What goes through your head?
I thought, well, this is never going to happen.
Father Martin is a hero to many LGBT Catholics. He's called for a warmer welcome of the LGBT community in the church.
A friend of mine said, where he's meeting you in the Apostolic Palace in the library is where he meets diplomats and heads of state. And this is the public way that the Vatican has of sending a signal of support for you. And then I can say that meeting him was really a highlight of my life. Let's just say, I can't share too many of the details, very encouraging. And I left walking on air. I was also happy for the LGBT community. They saw it as a sign of support.
You could have talked about anything. Why did you choose to talk about LGBT issues?
I will say one thing, which I haven't revealed before. I was told to say to him, Holy Father, what would you like to talk about? And he said, what would you like to talk about? LGBT people don't have a lot of advocates in the Vatican. I was just bringing the voices of LGBT people into that room with me, and that's what I felt like my mission was.
Pope Francis is speaking out again in support of gay people.
Reaching out to gay Catholics in a way no Pope has ever done before.
The Pope saying, quote, if someone is gay and he searches for the Lord and has goodwill, who am I to judge?
It is changing things. LGBT Catholics have told me he's brought them back to the church, period. So the proof is in the pudding.
Says that when he told the Pope he was gay, the Pope responded, and I'm quoting now, God made you like this, God loves you like this.
I think he's done more for LGBT people than any Pope. So that's revolutionary.
I know there are folks who might feel like it's not enough yet.
The church, as they say, thinks in centuries, not days.
Right. What opportunities do you see for the church to engage and to move towards justice and towards equity?
The clearest thing, and it's a good thing to talk about during Lent, is where LGBT people are suffering.
Brunei in Southeast Asia is getting a lot of attention.
New law that will make sex between men an offense punishable by stoning to death.
In countries, you can be executed for same-sex relations. In something like 70 countries, it's illegal. And so I think the decriminalization of homosexuality is a really important move for the church to stand behind. Right? These are life and death issues for a lot of people. Secondly, I would say for the church to combat teen suicide.
The transgender community is really focusing on this teen suicide as an example of what they call intolerance and ignorance.
LGBT people, as you know, are at a higher risk for attempting suicide.
She was only 17.
And then finally, the targeting of LGBT people, who are fired from their jobs.
I opened the letter and I just sobbed.
When so many other people who are not following church teaching, are not treated that way.
What would you say to the parish priest who wants to step out in faith, step out in courage, in redefining how the church has interacted with the LGBTQ community?
Be not afraid, as Jesus said. I mean, the desire to do so is coming from God, right? So these feelings are basically God working through you. See the desire to respond to the LGBTQ person in the church as a holy thing, as a call from God, and say yes.